Raider Nation, what's good? Jesse Merrick here. Welcome into another episode of the Silver and Black Sports Network podcast. Today, we're looking at Klint Kubiak from a different angle because we've already broken down his scheme. So here's the real question. What is it actually like trying to defend that Kubiak/Shanahan offense? To answer that, I brought in someone who's lived it. Former Raiders linebacker Kirk Morrison, who went head-to-head with Gary Kubiak and Mike Shanahan's outside zone rushing attack when they were in Denver and when Gary was in Houston as well. He knows exactly why this system gives defenses nightmares. So today, we broke down why the outside zone run game creates built-in advantages for the offense, how it actually helps the offensive line win up front, what's demanded of a running back in that system, and why Ashton Jeanty fits it so perfectly. We also explain why this scheme stresses linebackers and safeties in ways that fans don't necessarily always see, and Kirk also dives into how Fernando Mendoza fits into the bigger offensive picture as well. Plus, Kirk is a defensive guy, so you know what I got his thoughts on the Raiders' defensive coordinator search and what direction that side of the ball needs to go as well. But first, you know which we got to get to. We always got to hit our question of the day. And I want to know which player you are most excited to see in Klint Kubiak's offense next season and why. Let me know in the comments below. Let's hash it out. And if you're new here, welcome. Thanks for joining us. Smash that subscribe button. And also head to silverandblacksportsnetwork.com to sign up for our free Raiders newsletter. It's chock full of all the latest Raiders news and analysis, and it drops every Friday morning at 6 a.m. You don't want to miss that. And with that all out of the way, guys, let's dive into it with our conversation with Kirk Morrison. All right, Kirk, let's just dive right into it, man. I wanted to bring you on because obviously you bring such an interesting perspective to the table. One, you're from Oakland, and two, you wore the silver and black and obviously now work for the team as well. So your perspective is so interesting on this one. So with all of that in mind, what was Tuesday like for you when they officially introduced Klint Kubiak to be the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders?
I think a lot of emotions kind of come with that because you look at the way that the season previously went for the Raiders in 2025, and it's not what I think anybody envisioned, especially with, Coach Pete Carroll coming in. So it was a little bit different for me on Tuesday because you saw a coach that the Raiders hired in Klint Kubiak, and it checked a lot of the boxes for what I think the coach of the Raiders should be. I think one of the bigger things is that I felt like the Raiders got the best coach of this coaching cycle.
Yeah.
Okay. When you think about the 10 available jobs that were there, look, and I love Robert Saleh and Harbaugh and Stefanski. All those guys are great. But I think the guy who was sought after the most and kind of the belle of the ball, I would say, was Klint Kubiak. And the Raiders were able to secure that head coaching opportunity for him and bring him in. So that's the first part I was excited about. The second part I was really excited about is like watching Klint and his family, wife and kids, and watching them interact with everybody, but kind of be with themselves. I think people don't realize that he hasn't spent more than 3 years in one place.
Yeah.
So the thing for me was that I saw a coach who really wants to dig in and make his roots, see his family grow, watch his kids grow in this job. That to me tells me that this is a coach that's here for the long haul, that this isn't something that he's just trying to get to the next job. We've seen coaches like that. Mm-hmm. It's like, oh, they're just starting here and we'll see what happens after that. Like, no. Like you could hear from him, like he understands that this is a job that he knows I'm going to dig my feet in. I'm going to plant my seeds and watch them grow. I'm going to be here for a long time. So I was excited about that part of it. And I think it also, the last box that I was excited the most about was that it's a head coach / coordinator. Mm-hmm. So you got the 2-for-1, right? Now, there will be a coordinator in place by title as far as offensive coordinator, but Klint's going to be the head coach and also the offensive coordinator. What does that tell me? Is that whoever the quarterback is, whether we're drafting, a quarterback with the first overall pick or bring one in free agency, who knows? But all I would say is this. You've got a play caller and a head coach that's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And, I covered the Rams for the previous 9 years before, joining the Raiders broadcast. And I saw what Sean McVay, being the play caller and head coach, can be for a young quarterback, whether it was Jared Goff or even bringing in Matthew Stafford. The quarterback can be different, but yet the play caller and the head coach stayed the same. And it wasn't like having a defensive minded head coach where we see that a team has success and what happens? Their offensive coordinator takes off for a job. And it's kind of the situation that Mike McDonald of the
Yeah,
Seahawks is in right now, right? He's like
exactly. Yeah.
defensive minded head coach, but man, my offensive play caller has been great. And look, he's off to another job. I think that's the box that I wanted to check as well, because I looked at the success not only of obviously, I talked about Sean McVay, but I throw in Kyle Shanahan in that same sentence as well. And my college quarterback, same thing. And Kevin O'Connell, who same thing, play caller, offensive coordinator, offensive mind, but goes to Minnesota and takes over as the head coach and play caller. So I think that's been a recipe for success for a lot of these coaches.
Yeah, no, it's massive because it does stop that vicious cycle of the constant turnover, at least on the offensive side of the ball, where, like, let's be real, the Raiders have a lot of work to do, but they have more foundational pieces on offense. And I think that's why it's so exciting for the Raiders, is because now bringing him into the fold, they can take advantage of more than likely an incoming quarterback in Fernando Mendoza at number one, Ashton Jeanty, Brock Bowers, also Michael Mayer. Like, let's not forget about him in the usage of 12 personnel. Yeah. And then they also have Colton Miller. Like, we can't forget about that. Like, they have foundational pieces there. And so I'm curious, though, too, everyone talks about him and his offense, the Shanahan Kubiak style scheme. You're a guy that has played against that type of scheme before, obviously, when you're with the Raiders. Mike Shanahan was the head coach for about a year or so, overlap for you, and then Kubiak also was there too. So I'm curious for you what it's like as a defender, being a linebacker, playing against this scheme. What are some of the challenges?
Oh, excuse me. Yeah.
You're good.
A lot of challenges, man. You mentioned it, going against that Shanahan offense early in my career, when I was in Jacksonville as well, when he was Kerry Kubiak was the head coach over in Houston. And a guy who I think ran that zone scheme, that blocking, the running back, was Arian Foster. And Arian Foster, I think, was the best zone runner I've ever seen. Still is. If you put zone runners in that scheme of all best zone runners of all time, I would put Arian Foster over Terrell Davis, who's in the Hall of Fame. I mean, Arian Foster was just that good. Now, he didn't have that longevity. He didn't have, obviously, the year that Terrell's that dominance that Terrell Davis had for that period of time with the 2 Super Bowls. But it is a scheme that is very difficult to defend. And what we've seen now is a lot of these offenses that run that similar style. The running game matches the pass game. Like, you'll see the same run action that you'll see in the pass action, and it mirrors each other. Yeah, I know a lot of people kind of went back and talked about the plays of the Super Bowl 60, in which they ran this, a similar zone play, and they set up the touchdown to Barner at the end, or the first touchdown of the game to A.J. Barner, but it was all the similar action of the running game. And when you've got that running game going, it's a lot easier for, the play action to hit. But it's about angles. And you mentioned, being a defender in this league, trying to defend it, man, it was difficult because it's the illusion of complexity, right? That's what they call it. It's an illusion of, oh man, they're trying to run the ball outside, but in reality, they're trying to get you running and moving in a spot to where there's different options for the running back to hit it. I believe what my longtime defensive coordinator Rob Ryan would say, in that offense, it's one cut or your cut. That was the motto. Seriously, it's one cut or your cut. And I was like, yeah, right, Rob, whatever. And then I turned on the tape, and you saw it. It's these runners get one cut and they're downhill. And so it's kind of twofold. It's like it's hard to defend it because at any point they can cut the ball back, or they can keep the ball front side. And so then I'm like, man, this is one of those things where honestly you just have to go and strike the guard, strike the tackles, strike the center. You see a lot of 5-man fronts. So you may see some teams have to play a lot more base because they want to control who I think the guy who operates the whole entire thing is the center. The center is the key to it. The center can get up, and his movement is what makes this thing really, really go. And that's why you see a lot of 5-man fronts, because you want to have somebody directly over the center and force him to have to snap the ball and then have to get up and not allow him to get to the second level. And that's why you see what they call a lot of bare fronts against the stretch zone running scheme.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because I actually heard Kubiak when he was talking to Q Myers from Raider Nation Radio about the
Hmm.
offensive line, and he noted the importance of figuring things out at center for them. Obviously,
Yes.
Jackson Powers Johnson was a hot topic last season. Where do you
Yeah.
think he slots in, center or guard in this scheme? And if he's not the center, what do you think direction they go? Do you think they go through the draft or free agency for that?
I'll go to, and I try not to do this, but I looked at, their roster in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
You really study their roster, especially this season for me, and diving into it really in the playoffs. They started Jalen Sundell, who's an undrafted free agent at center,
Yep.
and he was one of their better offensive linemen. So just putting it out there that all cards are on the table. I don't think that the Raiders have their five offensive linemen. Maybe not
Yep.
be. They're not even in the locker room right now. Who knows? I think that they're going to cast a wide net because the offensive line last year did not perform at its best. I think Colton Miller is still a part of that. I think that he is a very, very good left tackle in this league, but I think all four spots on the offensive line, it could be it could be anybody.
Yep.
I'll be honest with you. They may go undrafted free agent. They may go in the draft and draft a couple of guys. But I just know there'll be more competition at that spot. That nobody is like, okay, he's going to be a guard here, or he's going to be the center. I don't think it's going to be a lot of competition. And my thing is too, Jesse. Like, how many former Seahawks are going to be on the Raiders now? You know
Yep.
what I mean? Because a lot of guys who are familiar with the system, or even former, New
Saints,
Orleans
yep.
Saints.
Mm-hmm.
Let's look at some Saints, Minnesota Vikings. Like, that's what I mentioned earlier with Coach Kubiak not being in the same place for more than 3 seasons. He's had a chance to go to different organizations and, work with a lot of guys. So I think that when I look at the way that this roster will be set and the way that this offense will be set, we're going to have a lot of players to pull from that may not be the big time names, but can be the guys who know how to, work and play this system well.
Yeah, and I think that's a really good point to bring up too. Like as you're saying that, I'm thinking, well, yeah, it's actually probably a good thing for the Raiders
It's a
right
great
now
thing.
that he's
Yeah.
been kind of a suitcase because he has, living out a suitcase. That is that he
Right.
has that option to pull from so many different teams and so many different guys that he's worked with. So that is going to be fascinating to see how that pans out. But just back to this rushing attack as a whole.
Yeah.
You talk about one cut or your cut. Ashton Jeanty, is a guy that's going to be running this offense in terms of that attack. We saw what Kenneth Walker could do up there. No knock on him. He is a solid running back, just won
Yeah.
Super Bowl MVP. But Ashton Jeanty is a guy that has a skill set that's a bit different than some of those guys. How do you think he fits into this?
Think he fits in great. I mean, I love when Ashton Genty's, when his shoulders are square. I love when Ashton Genty's running out of the dot, out of the behind the center. I love when the quarterback is under center. And I think you're going to see a lot of that too in this scheme. It's going to help out Ashton Jeanty a lot. And I think he's going to be fantastic in this scheme. Like, no lie. I think that the different elements that you saw Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet, George Halani, like all the running backs were able to have some success. And a lot of it was, I think, just natural ability that the running back position had. I mean, Kenneth Walker set up so many great blocks in the Super Bowl and then just throughout the playoffs because of the patience, but also too is seeing it, and if there's a feel, and this is his first year working with Klint Kubiak. I mean, the success of the Seahawks for me, it should excite Raider Nation. Because it wasn't like this was a 2 and 3 or 4 year process. Klint Kubiak came in as a first year offensive coordinator to that team, and they had immediate success. Jackson Smith and Jigba was the offensive player of the year. It all works hand in hand. So when it comes to Ashton Jeanty, yeah, let's go back last year and watch every single Kenneth Walker run, but envision a guy in a black jersey with a silver number 2 on his back. Like, how would Ashton hit this? Or how would he do that? And I think we're all alluding to that. We think that Ashton has more ability than the Super Bowl MVP, Kenneth Walker. And so you can only imagine and hope that he has similar production that we saw Kenneth Walker have in this offense.
Yeah, definitely. And you don't have to do too much imagining because they both have that same, Michael Myers stance as well.
Yeah,
That's what
they
caught
do.
my eye in the Super Bowl watching. I was like, wait, that's the exact same thing.
Exact same stance. Yeah.
And also, too, look, we're projecting a bit here, but
Yeah.
Anybody and everybody thinks that Fernando Mendoza is going to be the guy that they take at number one. Even talking to Mark Davis, he couldn't
Yeah.
keep the grin off his face afterwards. You know what I
Right.
mean? He didn't
Exactly.
hide it too
Yeah.
well. So
Yeah.
Fernando Mendoza and his skill set, you're a guy that covered him when he was at Cal a handful of times. You're very familiar
Yeah.
with him. What about his skill set excites you about working with, Klint Kubiak in this offense?
Well, he's a worker, and both these guys are workers. And the one thing that when I've always talked to, Fernando Mendoza's offensive coordinator, his quarterback coach, his head coach, Fernando always wants to know the why.
Yeah.
He's a guy that wants to know the why. Why are we under center? Why are we, going, play action pass here? Why are we running this play? Why is the footwork like this? In a way to always understand I'm doing this because I'm setting a play up later, or I'm under center because it gives the running back a better opportunity to cut the football back. I'm running it this way or doing it this way because it makes the defense have to show their rotation early if they're going to be in zone, or if they're going to be in man, they have to show it. So there's a lot of things that I've learned about Fernando Mendoza over the years, is that he's a guy that wants to work, the guy that wants to be in the building. Teammates, they stick up for him. They love the guy. They love him. Everything that he is all about football. And so, I get to dive into more of the Indiana film in the coming weeks. But I've got some clips I can't wait to show people from his days at Cal that, it's always been there. But he was on a national stage and showed off the talent that we had already seen. He's going to be fantastic throwing the football. He's going to do everything. And, April 1st is April Fool's Day, but it's also Fernando Mendoza Pro Day. So I'm excited about that one, because that's going to be something that a lot of people will just get a chance to see him just be a pure passer, right? Just show off his skills and his athleticism. And we've seen, Jesse, right, what these pro days look like.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, go show me what you can do. So that's going to be the moment where he wows you and you say, well, I didn't know he had that. How many times do people say, I didn't know, I wasn't familiar with his game. I didn't know he had that in his bag. Man, Fernando's got a lot in his bag. So excited to see what that looks like. And even if he is the pick, like I said, I never, you never say never, but I don't see the Raiders doing anything different at that first overall pick. But look, crazier things have happened. People trying to give up the farm to come get him when we have to have a conversation. But for right now, I think that he looks to be like a good fit, and we'll see how this process plays out, and how the combine and everything goes.
Yeah, no, exactly. And like you said, I think the fact that it's Kubiak coming in and hearing Mark Davis talk about their process, you can chalk it up. But again, people are going to throw some crazy offers at him, so we'll see how it goes.
I mean, we got to do something. I mean, people already know. It was just like last year. Like, you could tell me everything. It was going to be Cam Ward. Like, okay. Yeah. Remember, before it was going to be Trey's the year before that. No. It's Caleb Williams. Like, let's just stop. I know we want to create some drama. Yeah. But there is no 1-2. He is the one quarterback, and the team that needs a quarterback obviously is picking at one. So let's not complicate it. I know it kind of brings down the drama of the NFL draft coming up, but I always say, hey, look, let's hurry up, get the pick done, have the party, and we can be done and sleep on the West Coast by 7:30. So we should be good.
Exactly. Raiders fans will be happy for less drama on draft day. That's for sure. Kirk, obviously we can keep rolling, but you got to run. You got some stuff you got to do. So I do appreciate the time as
today,
always.
Man. I'm still wrapping up the Super Bowl, man. This whole week has been Super Bowl.
It's crazy.
Next week we'll turn the page to the start and thoughts of free agency and the draft over on SiriusXM NFL Radio. So we've got that going as always. Yep. So looking forward to how this staff fills out now, because we got Klint Kubiak's staff is the next big thing. You were asking me offline a little bit just about the defense and what does that look like. And Clint's been around some really good defensive coordinators. I wanted people to realize that he's been around Mike Zimmer, Leslie Frazier, Dennis Allen, Mike McDonald. Like, we're talking about legends of defensive minded guys. And so looking forward to seeing what may happen. People are talking about Jim Schwartz. I said, I don't know about Schwartz because you got to give up a draft pick. You got to there's some compensation behind that. But I think overall that's going to be his biggest hire, because the defensive coordinator, Max Crosby, and a lot of work they're going to have to do on that side. So looking forward to how this staff kind of plays out and gets filled out in the next couple weeks.
Yeah, that's the thing, man. Like, there's so many questions and everything. It's such a rough year for the Raiders, but it creates for a very exciting offseason for them that's going to run, really, honestly, all the way till training camp. So I'm excited for all of it. I know you are. The work never stops for you. You are a busy man. So thanks again. I appreciate you carving out some time for me.
You got it, my man. Talk to you soon, man.
All right, later.
All right.
Hey, Kirk's insight really is invaluable as a guy who has actually put on the helmet and played against this style of offense. Now, I understand it's evolved and changed a bit over the years, but at the end of the day, that outside zone, 3-2. Hey, Kirk's insight, honestly, is next level because he actually put the helmet on and played against this style of offense. Now, I understand that it's evolved over the years and all that stuff, but at the end of the day, like the tenets of that outside zone rushing attack and the Kubiak/Shanahan scheme is all the same. So it's really cool to get his perspective, what it's like as a linebacker and how it kind of puts them in binds defending those guys. So again, going to be really fun to watch. Not only, how Klint, installs that offense here and uses all the pieces that the Raiders have at their disposal and who he brings in to fit what he wants to do as well. But it's also going to be interesting, too, to see how he builds out his staff. And obviously, as we talked about with Kirk, the big question is going to be defensive coordinator. We'll see how that rolls out for him. Obviously, on the offensive side of the ball, we know Klint is going to call plays, but he has to fill out his staff. And up in Seattle, some things are happening as they try to replace him, obviously. And they're looking in-house and interviewing a handful of guys. As of right now, Seattle has actually interviewed Andrew Janocko, Jake Peetz, Justin Outen, and Mac Brown. Now, Janocko is a guy that a lot of us thought would follow Kubiak down here to Las Vegas, and so that's really interesting because this is a guy that has followed Kubiak around throughout his coaching career. So I thought he was one of those guys, just much like their offensive line coach as well, was a guy that was probably going to be a lock to follow Kubiak down here, but the key thing to keep in mind is if he were to come down here to Las Vegas, he obviously wouldn't be calling plays. So that's a huge opportunity for him up there in Seattle to actually be able to call plays offensively. So that's something to keep an eye on, and obviously it would impact how things turn out for the Raiders. But again, we talked about it in one of our previous podcasts, all the different guys on that Seattle staff on the offensive side of the ball that have ties to Kubiak that could be coming down here. But again, keep an eye on how Seattle's search goes. Obviously, like I said, Klint's going to be building things out. We're going to be keeping tabs on the defensive side of the ball too. And when that drops, we're going to break down what that scheme will look like. We're going to be tabbing Cody Alexander like we do a lot of times when it comes to defensive stuff to help us break that down. So make sure you guys keep it tuned in. Again, if you made it this far, if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe. And again, also check us out at silverandblacksportsnetwork.com. As always, I appreciate you guys. We are now officially in off-season mode because the NFL season is done. The Combine's coming up, all that stuff. Like, there's going to be a lot of stuff to get to, and I'm excited to dive into all of it with you guys. This is where things get really fun and interesting when we start to see these guys prepare for the draft. And then again, as free agency rolls around and the staff gets filled out, we really get to see what direction this team is going. So it's going to be a lot of fun diving into all of that in the coming weeks and months. So can't wait to do it. In the meantime, thank you guys for watching today. This was a fun episode with Kirk. Always love chopping it up with him. And we will catch you guys again on Tuesday. Take it easy.